What's up YouTube, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about my self-study journey, why I'm doing it, and more importantly, my planning process. Self-studying is great, but it needs structure in order to be efficient. Let's take college for example. You show up to your first class, first semester, and the professor hands you a syllabus. Now that syllabus is going to tell you what topic you're learning each week, your upcoming exams, quizzes, and other assignments that you have. We want to take that and build our own syllabus for the topic or topics that we're studying. So stay tuned. Towards the end of the video, I'm going to be going over how I plan my syllabus for what I'm currently studying. So you might be wondering what started this. Why am I on this self-study journey in the first place? And it's really because in high school, I wasn't that interested in STEM-related topics. I did appreciate math and physics, chemistry, but I just wasn't willing to put in the work. I was interested in other things at the time, and I wasn't really willing to sit down, do math problems over and over again, and really put the time and effort in to do well in school. Because I didn't do that, by the time I was picking what major I wanted to do in college, I looked back at my grades and saw that I was getting B's in math and calculus, but I struggled. I wasn't doing that well. I needed tutoring. So I didn't think it was cut out for me on the college level. My interest in STEM-related topics has grown exponentially since high school, and really in the past few years. I'm extremely interested in advanced math and how it all works and how these functions are able to describe the things around us in life, and I want to have a good understanding of that. But I don't want to go back to school and be at a slow pace of taking a couple classes and spending 3 months on that class where I know that in my free time, where I'm not stuck to the structure of formal education and worrying about different tests and quizzes, I can spend the time to really enjoy the subject. I spent a lot of my college time as a history major because history is what fascinated me, and it still fascinates me. I'm a huge history buff. But when I had to do it for assignments and reading close to 1,000 pages a week, constantly writing papers and not getting the time to read the books that I wanted to read, I had to get out of it because I didn't want to lose my interest in history, and I ended up switching to kinesiology. Before history, I was an architecture major, and that lasted not even a week, and before that, I originally was a mechanical engineering major, oddly enough. Though before school actually started, I switched to architecture. The point is, I'm doing this self-study journey because I believe that you don't have to have a formal education to study the things that you love. There are so many assets out there in how to study what you want. Countless books, reviews on those books, textbooks you can rent through Chegg very affordably, and there's good answers and solutions for when you don't understand most problems, not every problem, but for most problems there are good solutions out there. But really it's just, I have questions. I have questions about physics, about chemistry, about engineering and fluid dynamics, and I want to be able to spend my own time how I want finding those answers. So right now, I'm currently studying calculus. Now I took AP Calculus AB in high school, and I took a weird version of calculus my freshman year of college, but it didn't involve trigonometry, which at the time I was very thankful for because, I don't know about you, trigonometry can be scary, which is why I'm spending more time on it so I can really get a good grasp of it. But before I got into calculus, I had to sit back and evaluate where I am in my math skills. And the results were really sad, and it hurt my ego a lot, I'm not gonna lie. I had to go back to algebra, review basic algebraic rules, like just multiplying fractions and exponents and how all those rules work together. Because what I understood, and reflecting back on when I took calculus, I didn't spend the time to refresh and focus on the algebra. And calculus is really 90% algebra. There's only a little bit of calculus that you're doing in each problem. The rest of it is just more advanced algebra. In order to do that advanced algebra, you have to be good at the basics. So I spent a few weeks refreshing algebra. I used Khan Academy mainly to do this and took some of their assessment tests to see what I needed to focus on and where I was already good at. Once I felt comfortable enough in algebra, I then moved on to trigonometry and spent a few weeks on that. I wanted to really make sure I understood the unit circle, especially the different there's a lot with trigonometry. If you're in it or you've done it, you know that there's a lot of different rules, different double angle and half angle rules with cosine and sine. And I still have to use my cheat sheets when I'm working through those problems. And since I'm not taking an actual test that I'm getting graded on, I see no problem with that. But I'm currently now in calculus. I'm using Calculus, the 10th edition by Ron Larson. It's a fantastic book. I mean, sitting down and actually reading the textbook, which is something I never did in high school, and especially when I took it in college, but actually sitting down and reading the problems, going through the example solutions, and not just reading it, but applying the different study methods and techniques I've learned. When I originally would approach math, I would approach it through a numerical standpoint, which makes sense, right? You're doing math, so you should focus on the numbers. But I wasn't understanding what was happening conceptually, and that's really what I've tried to change, especially applying the Feynman technique to break down each topic within the chapter. Currently almost done chapter 3, so each, like 3.5, 3.4, each section, I'm trying to apply the Feynman technique to understand what's happening conceptually, so I know what I'm working towards and what I should be focusing on, and then coming up with the algebra and the calculus to solve it. So once I'm done with Calculus 1, what's nice about this book is it also includes the materials for Calculus 2 and 3. So I can keep this book, keep working through straight through, and end up getting through Calculus 3. All right, so here we have the textbook I've been using to study calculus. Again, it's the 10th edition by Ron Larson and Bruce Edwards. As you can see, it is quite a thick book as it has Calculus 1 through 3. I'm renting it for about $10 off of Chegg until I believe about mid-August. I may end up buying the book as I'm not going to get through this entire book by then. With my current practice, I'm going to finish Calculus 1 by the end of July. And I've heard Calculus 2 takes a long time to get through, so it may take me a little more than a month to get through Calculus 2. But here in the first cover, we have your rules for differentiation and integration. I have these written down as well, but it is nice to have a quick reference here. The biggest part of this book that I love is the cheat sheet for trigonometry. As you can see here, as the units circle your different formulas that you need to use. Doesn't have all of them, however it does have a good chunk of them, so I do end up referring back to this page as well. So just to show you some of the chapters it has. So unfortunately, this book isn't broken up by each calculus level. It's just all one whole book, so I kind of had to do some searching online, but from most people's consensus, chapters 1 through 5 is Calculus 1, with with chapter 6 sometimes being omitted, but with my plan, I'm going to go through chapter 6 and count that as Calculus 1, and then chapters 7 through 10 for Calculus 2, and then the rest of the book through chapter 15 for Calculus 3. So it is quite a really good textbook. It has very good chapter and section intros, as well as great examples, great exercises. The odd number problems are in the back of the book, as well as online at calcchat.com. Like I mentioned earlier, the solutions that they have on CalcChat don't break down everything step by step. So if you get it wrong and you're not understanding the breakdown that they have for the answer, just keep working at the problem, and for, I would say, 95% of the problems I'm struggling with, I am able to figure out how they got that answer. Unfortunately, for the other 5%, I am hoping to be able to go back to them when my algebra is a little bit stronger and be able to figure out what I was doing wrong. So once I'm done with Calculus 1 and I'm working through 2 and 3, I also want to be able to spend some time working on what would be Physics 1 in a college setting. I did take AP Physics in high school, but I remember nothing. So I'm looking forward to how that's going to be. But I wanted to make sure I had a good grasp and a good foundation in Calculus 1 before I moved on to this. I don't want to be splitting my attention between Calc and Physics until I really understand the math, so that I can focus on the concepts and the conceptual ideas within physics. So here I have a screenshot from Notion of my syllabus that I made for Calc 1. So as you can see here, I have the chapter and subchapter as well as the title of it and the date to complete it by. So as you can see, I'm doing a section per day as well as a chapter exam at the end of each chapter. For these, I'll be doing about 30 questions from the review section at the end of each chapter, doing the odd number only so that I can actually grade them and check the answers in the back of the book. Like I said earlier, I will be doing through chapter 6 to include as Calc 1. I know some people said it's omitted, but I don't want to leave any chapters out and I want to learn what I can. So this will take me through to the end of July, I believe around July 25th, 27th, if I'm able to get through each section a day. When I'm done Calculus 1, I will do the same thing for Calc 2 as well as Physics 1. Now, I probably won't be going through a section a day as I will be taking 2 classes. So I'll probably be alternating it every other day with what subject I'm focusing on. Although, depending on where I'm more interested in and what I'm having more fun with, I may spend more time in one or the other. I probably will enjoy physics more, as I've heard Calc 2 is the most difficult out of the 3 basic calcs to take. So along with using the calculus textbook, I've been using MIT Open Courseware, which if you haven't heard of it, I highly recommend you check it out. They have hundreds, if not thousands of classes for free with excellent lectures. Some of them include syllabus and work problems and exams with solutions so you can grade yourself to see how you would have done on that exam. I highly recommend you check it out. I mainly stick to the textbook just because I like to have some music on and just work through the book. But if there are particular questions I have or something I want to get a better understanding of, I'll refer back to the MIT classes and they are extremely helpful. Also on YouTube, if you haven't heard of I believe it's the organic chemistry tutor, he has phenomenal explanations on working through different calculus problems. The biggest issue I've run into with the textbook and self-studying in general is if I'm really stuck on something and I can't find a better explanation or a video on it, it's kind of hard to figure out what the right answer would be. I don't have that teaching assistant or the professor themselves to help sit down with me and work through that problem. Now, with the Calculus 10th edition by Ron Larson, the odd numbered problems, the answers are in the back of the book. And if you use their website, CalcChat, they do sort of have solutions, although they kind of have step 1, step 2, and then they skip to the answer. And they kind of miss everything in between that gets into the complicated algebra, which is what I struggle with. So if I'm not able to find it online, now this sort of is a blessing and a curse. When I don't have the right solution, it forces me to work it out. So I'll try the problem first, I get it wrong, then I try to look back and see what I did wrong. Normally, it's an algebra problem and not something related to calculus that I got wrong. But some of the algebra can be really complicated, and I will spend up to an hour on one problem trying to figure out how they got that answer. And this is what varies from the MIT Open Courseware. They don't have you simplify it all the way, whereas the answers that they have online for the textbook are extremely simplified. So I do run into that issue where if I can't solve it, I kind of give up and move on, and I don't have anyone there to help me point out what I'm doing wrong so I can learn it and fix that issue. So that is the one thing I'm looking forward to in this self-study journey, is potentially finding others that are also doing this, that are smarter than me, that can help me answer these questions that I can't find answers to, and that whatever they're working on, that I might be able to help them and we can all grow together. Because that is the nice thing about formal education, is you do have those study groups and office hours and teaching assistants that can sit down with you and spend the time to make sure you truly understand the topic. So with my current plan, I should be done Calculus 1 in about 3 to 4 weeks. Now, because I do work full time and I have another job and life, I estimate how long it'll take me to get through each subject. But some subjects are harder than I anticipated, so I have to spend a few more days on them because I don't want to stick to this timeline and have gaps in my knowledge. And that's the great thing about self-study, is it's flexible. Your schedule is flexible. You can take as long as you need to before moving on to the next topic and worrying about failing. So ideally, I'll get through Calculus 1, and while I'm working through Calculus 2, I'll work through Physics 1, finish those, and then while I'm working through Calculus 3, work on what would be Physics 2. Now, I know I'm using these 1, 2, 3s. I'm just equating them to the course schedules that I'm able to find online. Pretty much every college that I found has what the average student would take as their course load each semester and what those class names would be. Now, depending on the program and what the specialty that school is, some of the classes and maths you need may differ. So I'm currently been looking at aerospace engineers, bachelor's of science in aerospace engineering at schools such as University of Maryland, MIT, Rutgers, and kind of getting a base idea of what the typical freshman would need as prerequisites to enter in those classes. And I'm very far behind. Linear algebra, differential equations are usually in the first semester, and I'm nowhere near that. So I'm really hoping to have all these prereqs done so I can base more of my education, my self-study around what's typically done in a formal education setting. And I think that's a great tool to use, because math and physics and different sciences, it can be scary and you don't know what order to go in. And that's really important with STEM. You want to be able to go in order because they all build off the previous class. So I don't want to jump right into fluid dynamics without having the proper physics and math knowledge behind it. Otherwise, I'm not going to get anything from learning that topic. I need to have the context before learning those advanced subjects. So what have I learned so far in the beginning of my self-study journey? Well, I've really learned that the discipline that I'm applying to sitting down and studying every day has affected other areas of my life. I'm able to wake up early every morning, work out, have the right diet and nutrition, drinking enough water each day. Just little things are adding up and then turning back and bettering my studying and my study time. When I plan ahead and take the time out of each day that I sit down and say, hey, I'm going to study, I need my time, that in effect is allowing me to time manage and not procrastinate and schedule the rest of my day. And I'm getting a lot done, not just in my personal life, but also at work. I'm able to kind of manage the projects that I'm working on a little bit. And this journey has also been a confidence boost. Like I've said, I struggle with the complicated algebra problems. So when I'm able to sit down, and even though it might take an hour and I'm finally able to solve that one answer, the confidence boost is great. It really shows that my work is paying off and that I'm studying in the right manner. What I've also noticed is that my ability to sit down and focus on one thing, whether that be studying or a work project or a project at home, has increased a lot. I don't know about you, older generations are always saying that our generation has the attention span of a goldfish. For the most part, I agree with them. Ever since Vine, our generation has loved short form media. But with practicing the Pomodoro technique and growing from 25-minute intervals to 35-minute intervals, and to, depending on what it is, sometimes an hour, my ability to sit down and focus and not get distracted by what's around me has been incredible. So the point I want to make about all of this is that our ability to learn is not limited by our ability to have a formal education. We still have libraries, we have free resources online. You don't have to pay to get an education. Now, depending on what the job is, you may need the degree requirements. But if it's something that you're passionate about and interested in, go ahead and study it. Don't think that you have to go pay a few $100 at a community college to learn that and walk away with a piece of paper. You can go online and find videos or find the resources that you need in order to study it. So I may sound like a broken record and I may have repeated myself, but I just hope you get the point is that you don't have to go to a formal education setting in order to learn what you're truly interested in. So thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day or great rest of your night, and stay tuned for more videos coming up.